Hello customers, my name is Brock with You Name It Vinyl. Today I'm going to be able to be showing you how to install your vinyl decals onto a glass surface. Most of you will be applying your decals onto a glass surface, back window, side window, etc., or maybe even a front windshield banner. A lot of my customers, once they get the instructions, must not be following them properly or just not really grabbing the concept of how a decal works. So today I'm going to go ahead and run through on how you should install this so you don't have any problems. I know some of my customers were sending me messages saying that the tape wasn't coming off of the decal. So what I'm starting to believe they were thinking was once the backing was off that they're supposed to peel the decal off from there. They were applying it to a window, so it didn't make too much sense to me. But no worries, we're going to help you out today. I did reship them a new one, so hopefully this video helps out them and future buyers. I'm going to do this on a Chevy bow tie today just because it is an odd shape. This is a perfect kind of symbol that you would use the hinge method on, or even for a lot of people, customers in my area that buy custom windshield banners in this length that go across the whole window, or even the custom ones that I sell for Jeeps for the hoods and fenders and whatnot with the custom text and custom font. That's what this method is going to be great for. If you did receive instructions that is for Hinge Part 2, fast forward into this video and we're going to show you how to get through that real quick, very easy. So up here I do have the Chevy bow tie. This is a very simple process. Now there's two ways to do it. You can either do the wet application, which is basically where you're going to take an empty bottle. Right here I have an empty bottle of OxyClean. The wet method, you would basically take a very, very small drop of Dawn dish soap into about a container this full of water and shake it up. That method is really only good if you're applying outside or if you have some sort of heat gun device to help dry out the decal quicker. So what's going to happen is if you use the water method wrong, too much water, too much soap, etc., no matter how long you leave the decal on for, there's still going to be water trapped inside, or it's just going to be too slippery and not dry out. And then as you go to peel the transfer tape, the decal is going to come with it. So I recommend not to do a water method unless you're completely confident and you're going to get it on right now. With the hinge method, as long as you're using tension and carding and squeegeeing the decal down right, you shouldn't have problem with bubbles, etc. Even if you were to have a few bubbles, there is the pin method where you would just take a small needle and just poke the bubble, not leaving a huge hole in the bubble, but just a little pin enough to release some of that pressure and squeegee the air out. So this is going to be the dry method. When we get into the decal, I'll show you when the method for wet would be used. So simply what you're going to do is you're going to start off with 2 pieces of masking tape. You can even use painter's tape, but I don't recommend that all the time just because painter's tape doesn't stick very well onto the window. From there, all you're really using this for is to basically line the decal up level. That's all you're using that for. So once you get that to where you want it to be, you're going to take a piece of masking tape, and hopefully this sticks. It's kind of humid here in my shop. You're going to take this straight down the middle. Make sure you iron this out so it's not going to come off. From there, you're going to grab your razor blade and keep your credit card or ID handy. And you're going to choose a side. So today, for the first part, since I'm standing over here, this is where the best light is, I'm going to show you how to do this. Basically, you're going to peel down the masking tape. You're not going to remove it all the way. From there, you're going to take the transfer tape and make sure the decal is sticking to that transfer tape, which you can see it is. You're going to start to peel back. Once it gets to right here, I have these 2 little corners. I'm just going to keep going slow. That way I don't rip the transfer tape. Make sure nothing else happens. Now once I get to the halfway point, I'm simply just going to take my razor and I'm going to cut all the way down. And I'm going to remove. From here, you're going to grab your card. Got a little bit of a tiny little crease here, but that's no big deal because I know to just tug on it with the transfer tape on, and that crease should pop out. Now from here, as I just accidentally let it touch, you don't want your decal to touch the window, because say this part touches down and this part is still not touched down, as you squeegee, you're going to get a crease. So from here, you're just going to go an inch at a time using your card. Now right here, I'm pulling with tension. That way I can lay it down and not have any trapped air underneath. So an inch at a time, going down an inch. Then once you get to the bottom, do it again, an inch going up. And you're going to repeat this method all the way down, back up, all the way down, back up. Sorry for repeating myself. Until that side is completely laid down. You can card it out a little bit more if you want. Like right here's a little bubble. You're going to be able to notice where these bubbles are. There's one here, there's one here, and there's one here. I'm just going to slowly put my finger down on the end of the card right before the bubble so I can add as much pressure as possible. And you're just going to squeeze that bubble out. There's one right here. I don't want to try to force that one all the way down, so I'm going to do the same method. My thumb is right where it's at. That's where the most pressure is. And I just push it out. There's a big one right here. Same thing, pressure above and out. So obviously you realize what's going to happen next. You can leave that taped on there if you'd like. What I usually do is take a razor blade and just cut that piece of tape off. From here, what you're going to do, this is really going to hold the decal down well, so don't be afraid to just hold it here and just tear this piece of masking tape down or up. Obviously you see it rip. From there, we're going to do the same process, except we don't need this masking tape anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and tear that off. Now all we have left is this decal. So all you're going to do from this point is you can do this one or two ways. You can peel from here and start to peel back until the backing falls out. But I don't like to do it that way because there's too much that you can do wrong to the decal. So all I'm going to do is fold it over. And I'm just going to peel this backing off. Now I am pulling a little bit and creating some tension here. Once you got a handle on it and it's almost off, you just hold your finger right here. Now obviously I won't have all this room to work with if I was doing something like this. So you would just have to find a good point where you could hold your finger in there without touching the decal. That way you don't get any dirt or anything like that. It's going to be the same method. I'm going to come over here so you can see a little bit of tension, maybe about an inch away right here, and then as I get further out, it's about 4 inches. But I'm just going to start at the top, do an inch at a time, same thing back up, same thing back down. Now the reason why I go down and then start again going up is because if I go down an inch, and then I restart back up here, the decal might tend to start shifting down. It will look crooked, if that makes any sense. But I've been doing this for a while, and back in the day I used to just do down and then skip back up top. And I would notice that some of the decal would start to like drift down. I don't know what from. And there you go. Same thing. I don't want to re-go over it. Find those bubbles. Work those out if you have, the closer they are to an opening, I'd force them that way. If you have them all the way down here in this corner, I wouldn't try and force them all the way up. Sometimes you could crease. I mean, there's a lot of things that can happen. So now we're done. So what I recommend from this point is you're going to leave this on your window, especially if it's nice out. Leave it on your window for about 20 to 25 minutes, and then go ahead and come out and start to peel. If you ever notice when you put the decal on and you start to peel and the decal wants to come with, with the transfer tape, lay it back down and start from a new corner. Because what can happen is as you peel, and say this is staying fine, which it's supposed to be, and then I get a bubble starting to form right here, instead of trying to work it back in, which could cause a crease, I'd rather just lay this down and then start from here. That way when that bubble starts to form again, I can push it closer to that inside than this outside. But simply I'm going to show you what you do. Once you get it, 25 minutes, especially on a nice day. Now you're not going to pull out and away. Don't pull out and away because you could pull the decal with you. You want to kind of, I guess what you could visualize as you're pulling straight down, keep the backing of this transfer tape against the inside of the transfer tape. That way the decal can't lift out. If anything, if it does come up a little bit, doing this, it's just going to lay back down onto the window. And you're going to peel at an angle. Now, obviously you can see right here I'm going to have a problem if I keep peeling that way. So right here, right before it starts to rip from peeling at this angle, I'm going to stop. And this method is really going to be used for these odd decals. So I'll start peeling this back, same thing, until I get to that point, and then I'll just continue to peel again. And you don't have to go fast. You can peel as slow as you want. And then at this point, it's just going to start to come with me. Now right here, it's starting to lift up a little bit. Now there's nothing I can do at this point. I don't want to go back and lay this back down. So I'm just going to take the card and I'm just going to squeegee that down. And it didn't give it a bubble or anything because I caught it on time. So you're just going to keep going. Right now it's turning out beautiful. No bubbles, no creases. That's about as flat as you're going to get it. One little bubble up here in this corner that just pushed right out. No problem there. Here's a bigger bubble starting to create its presence. I'm going to catch that, nip that in the butt before it laid down and make sure I got the air out of it. This is how slow you should be going. The harder you rip at this thing, just imagine if someone was, just tugging on it. And you find one of those spots where it's not on the window yet, you're just going to rip that decal right off. Starting to see a couple bubbles over here. Those are no big deal. As long as you're using a nice little credit card or a squeegee, you should be able to push those right out. Right here, this lifted. Instead of pushing it in this way, it's very close to this edge. I'm just going to lay it down like that. That'll end up adhering real well. Now, I noticed on the whole decal, I don't have really any bubbles at all on this whole side. Over here, there's just some very, very few tiny small specks. Now, this could just be because I didn't clean this window beforehand. On your instructions, it'll show to make sure that you use no Windex, but just use a little bit of soap and water and wipe off your window from any contaminants, because that could be very well what these very, very tiny pinhead ones are. But if anything, and it's not, what's going to happen is the sun, once it's baking on the back window, the side window, on the hood, those bubbles will just shrink out and they'll form back against the fender. So that's how you do a big decal like that. That's going to be for anything that has length to it. For instance, this Punisher head right here, which you can't see, I would end up doing this same process, but going horizontal, and I'd flip the head, half the head down, and then I'd do the bottom half of the head with this same method. So imagine this symbol going like this. I would do that same method, but I would be going vertical with it. So I would peel the front of the head down, put it up, peel the bottom of the head, and so forth. So that's how you do that. So what I'm going to do real quick, which I might speed up in post-production, is I'm going to go ahead and take this off. Now, I didn't show you the wet method on that, but simply when I peeled this side back, what I would have did was sprayed a little bit of water onto the window and a little bit of a mist onto the decal and did the same thing. And what this is going to help do for people that want a really, really good look with no bubbles whatsoever, it's going to help work those air pockets and the water out and help your decal lay nice and flat. The only problem is if you don't leave it sit long enough and you don't get all the water out or let the water evaporate, it's going to end up peeling back with the transfer tape because the transfer tape will get wet as well, and it's not going to let the decal separate. So I'm going to go ahead and peel this off, and we're going to show you hinge method number 2 real quick. Now, simply, since this hasn't been on here long and had time to cure, what I should be able to do is just peel this off. Now, it's not going to peel off like this in the wind or anything like that, but since it hasn't had time to cure and set on the window, you should be able to pull the decal right off. But you apply it right the first time, you shouldn't have to replace it and do that. So don't be worried about going down the road and it's just going to blow off. I literally had to take my little dentist tool, I guess you could say, and dig it off the screen and then use pressure to pull it off. So don't worry about that. So next method is going to be hinge method number 2. This is going to be for all of my Jeep people that have bought the military Jeep kits or have bought the Punisher heads or have bought any round decal, such as, for instance, this custom one. This would be hinge method number 2. Because a lot of these decals won't leave you a lot of room to do the masking down the center. So all we're going to do, this is easy. Everything I showed you in step 1 will be applied to this except in a different way. So all you're going to do for the top hinge method is you're going to take a piece of masking tape. You don't have to apply a lot of tape, or you don't have to cover it down to 4 inches. All you need is about 1.5 inches. All you're going to do, this is so easy. Lost my razor blade, which we'll just grab another one. All right, all we're going to do, hinge method number 2, same concept technically, except once we get up to where the tape is, we're going to cut. Grab the card. Now on something concave or anything that had more curve to it, aka your hood, your fender, things like that, you want to go really slow because you want to make sure that the decal goes with the shape of the hood or fender. That way you don't get any creases. So if you don't know how to heat shrink, I would recommend putting this as flat as you can on the surface. Don't try and go around any curves that have too many bends and too many creases or anything like that because you can mess up the decal. But simply all I'm going to do is same thing. I'm going to go 1 inch down. I'm going to go 1 inch back. Inch down. Now I am giving a little bit of tension, but not a lot because it kind of, if I were to let go, it's just going to want to lay itself down. Inch down, inch across, inch across, inch across, inch across. Should make a song about this. So you're probably wondering, I still have that little piece up there with that mask. All you're going to do is you're going to use the mask as a flap. You're going to peel this down. Don't peel too much so that you crease your decal. But that little piece that you left on there will just pull out, and then you'll just make your final little sweep. From there, what I would do is just remove that little piece of masking tape. That way you can get back underneath there. I'm bubble free. This should be an easy peel. Since this doesn't have corners, we're going to do the exact same thing as we did. We're just going to create our own corner. So whenever I'm pulling, I don't like to pull straight down. I like to pull across with my body. So I'm just going to I'll just get my little dentist tool. I'm going to get a little flap started. So I got my flap started, so I won't need this. I will get my card handy because it wanted to peel a little bit from right there, which is no big deal. I'm going to pull away from, or towards my body. Like I said, keep it low, keep the back of the transfer tape to pretty much the back. Don't get frightened if you peel too hard and that happens and it rips on you. It actually shows you're doing a good job. Now I can see some bubbles, which is going to be common because this transfer tape wasn't, this wasn't a very solid decal. It has a lot of, transitions, and here's what the decal looks like. As you can see, there's a lot of gaps, there's a lot of little spots, so it might tend to peel up in those locations. But same thing as I spoke of earlier, you're just going to find the nearest spot that you can card those out, apply pressure with your finger, and those should work out just fine. Now there is a big one. It's not super huge. It's half the size of a dime. But I don't want to risk popping, or squeegeeing that because it might pop or crease. I'm sorry. Take my razor blade. I'm going to take the sharpest point of it, and I'm just going to give it a little dagger, a hole you will not even be able to tell is there, and that squeegeed right out with no crease. You can't even tell it's there if you get close enough. That's how small that hole was. So there's one right here. It's going to be the same thing, just a little pop. You're going to squeegee out. Now, I do have another one. I'm going to get the camera closer so you guys can see. So this guy right here. These ones right up here, I'll probably do the same thing too. You're going to just take your end, push really hard. You get that little tiny hole right there. And then you just squeegee it out. And you really can't even tell it was there. So I'm going to do this to the rest of these so you guys can see. Pop really hard, or push really hard. Squeegee out. This one right here close to the edge, I should be able to just very lightly get that going. As you can see, once it got to the edge, it made a little pop sound. So if you have little bubbles, no worries. No one's going to know that they were there if you just do that method. You can't even tell that was there. But the rest of these, you should just be able to work them out. Like I said, some of the smaller ones, you'll be able to just let those shrink in the sun. As you can tell, those are there, those are gone. So a lot of these little ones that are left over, you can either take your time to just kind of get them out. Little pinhole, lift it out, gone. We're going to let the sun dry those up. So that's all you really got to do to apply a decal. You can see my shop out there. But yeah, that's it. So, if you want to work the rest of them out, great. If you want to do just do a little pop method, it'll go away real easy. So, no worries. I know a lot of people hate bubbles. If you do them right, they'll be alright. So I'm not an expert. I do have a shop. I do everything from tint to carbon fiber wraps. I do vehicle wraps. I do monograms for dance floors, at weddings. I do in-memory decals. There's all my tint. There's my tint cutter and my vinyl cutter. If you guys ever have any questions, feel free to contact me on here. Send me a message or subscribe, and we'll go from there. So thanks for watching. This was kind of long, 24 minutes, but hope that helped out. Thanks.